What if you need to do a bulleted list in ProPresenter, but your pastor sometimes skips around? Or you know that one time you're going to show the first in the bulleted list, then another time the first and second, third time, and so on. Is there a way to do that? Well, yeah, there is. So let's head over to the computer in just a second and talk about it. Presented by Church Tech U, it's the ProPresenter Show. On today's show, a deep dive into builds in ProPresenter. Hi, and welcome again to the ProPresenter Show. This is the show where I teach all about ProPresenter. My name's Paul Allen Clifford. And before we get started, if you've ever been in the situation where your pastor's jumping around and like quits halfway through a build and then wants to go back, but you don't want to like revisit every section to bring it back, go ahead and tell me about it in the comments below. So this is something that came up recently in the official ProPresenter group over on Facebook that I run along with Renewed Vision. And I thought, oh, I don't think I've actually talked about this. So let's head over and let's talk about it. So let me start by going into one of my sermon files here. Oh, here, this one will work. Okay. And I've got a bulleted list here. Okay, so we've got these 3 points. Well, what if I wanted to show one at a time? Well, I can right click to edit the slide. I could also click edit here or do Control E on either Mac or Windows. They all do the same thing. I just normally right click and edit slide since it's right there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I've selected the contents here and go to build and add build. First step, you select what transition you want to use. I'm going to suggest that most of the time you're going to want to do a cut or a dissolve, but you do you if you want to do something else. So I'm going to do cut here, and the magic is right here where it says delivery. Right now the slide would come in blank, and then all 4 lines here would come in once you clicked on it again. That's not what we want to do. We want to select by bullet. So once we select by bullet, we have a couple of options. We can leave it as is and it's going to come in blank, and then do proof of God's love, then God gave his son, he died for us, etc. But maybe you don't want it to act like that. So you've got a couple of options. First off, you can select just the first one here, and down here at the bottom, here I'm going to hide myself real quick, where it says on click, change that to with slide, and now that will come in at the same time as the slide. Another way to do it is to, instead of build from the first line, build from the second line, and that will do basically the exact same thing. Now keep in mind, I could have this come in after the transition with a delay or whatever, but I want to control this all manually. So I'm going to leave that as is. And let's go back to show mode here. And let me show you what that looks like. First off, dead giveaway that this has a build on it is these circles underneath it. So if you're ever in a situation where you've got a slide and it seems like you have to double click on it, look to see if there are any circles underneath it, because it could be that you've accidentally added a build to it. There's a couple of ways to do that, but that could be it. So now notice that if I click on it, hit the space bar or the right arrow key, doesn't matter, any of those 3 things will advance to the next one here. So just to show you once again, I'm just going to use the space bar here, but one right after the other. Well, what if your pastor likes to leave halfway through and come back? How can you solve that problem? Well, let's right click and edit this slide, and I'm going to right click and duplicate the slide a couple of times. So if I have any inkling, whether the pastor's told me or just my experience tells me that it could absolutely happen that we're going to jump back and forth, I'm going to make one new slide for each one of these, And instead of having it as it was with the build starting with line 2 here, God gave his son, I'm going to, for the second one, go here and go to build, and instead of God gave his son, I'm going to start, he died for us, line 3. And then on the last one, I'm going to do exactly the same thing, go into build and change that to grace means we don't earn his love. Okay? So, with that said, now let's look at how it is. So now we have there. If we want to continue on, we absolutely can, but if not, we can select this next one. Let's do it this way. So let's say we bring it in, and then the pastor starts talking about this down here. Well, we can have that there, and then we can come back, and we're where we are, ready to go for the next line. And then if the pastor wants to do this one, then we can come back, and we're where we were, ready to do the last line. So at any point, I can go back and bring in just the first one, bring in the second one, or bring in the third one just by clicking on the appropriate ones. So that gives me one important thing to do. If I right click and edit this slide again, well, what about underlines? Now you'll notice that this actually is underlined, but it's black, and the reason is that if you have a stroke, so let me turn that stroke off. Notice how it's white. If you have a stroke, it becomes the color of the stroke, the underline does. So to fix that, you can click on this gear icon right up here, select custom underline color, and choose whatever color you want. In this case, I want it to match the text. So that's there. Now, once I do that, I could go into build, and instead of using by bullet, I can do by underline. So some pastors like to do that. When you do that, this will come in as a fill in the blank kind of underline. So just to show you what that looks like, notice it's not in here, and then if I hit the space bar, it fills it in. And if I had multiples, so if I right click and edit this slide, let's say I wanted to do that with his son. So I'm just going to do Command U, Control U on Windows would do that as well. And I'm going to change the color here because I do have a stroke. So do that. And now if I go back here to build and select this text box, notice it can build from his son, or it can build from earn. So I can do the exact same thing that I did before, where I have multiple fill in the blanks, and they could be showing up in different parts of the message if I want to. Or I can just leave it as is, and if I go back here to show mode and select it again, you'll notice that both of these are now empty, and if I hit the space bar or the right arrow key or click on it, doesn't matter, then it'll fill in left to right, top to bottom, just how we read in English. There are other languages that don't read that way, but that's the way that this is coded because I'm doing this in English. So there we go. So that is a deeper dive into builds and some of the other things that you can do within it. If you want to remember this in the future, well, I do have a cheat sheet that I've made for you. So head on over to TDM.fyi/ProGifts. GIFTS is how you spell that. And select the Builds Cheat Sheet. Give me your name and email address, and I'll send that to you for free. Until next time, this is Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com and ChurchTechU.com, reminding you to go out and change eternity.